Is my hair okay? Hi, I'm Cellist Zlatomir Fung, and this is VC 20 Questions. I was born in 1999. The scariest moment in my life, there is one that comes to mind, which is when I was, I think, 7. I was holding a cello on my back in a soft case, and I started to lose my balance, and I fell backward, and I broke the cello into many pieces. That was pretty terrifying. I was fearful of the wrath of my parents. My favorite musician of all time is probably David Popper. I feel a special connection to him through the music he wrote for cello. My favorite musical work is the string quartet in F minor, the Serioso Quartet by Beethoven. If I wasn't a cellist, I think I'd like to try my hand at being a travel agent. I book a lot of travel as part of my job as a musician, and I seem to enjoy it more than my colleagues do. I'm currently reading The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. I started reading it because I saw the film adaptation last year, and I was really impressed by it. It made a big impression on me. I change my screensaver pretty often on my phone, and in the past I've actually had it as my to-do list. I had to put them on my screensaver so that every time I open my phone, which is dozens of times a day, I would see that I needed to get those things done. First thing I think about when I wake up in the morning is to try to not touch my phone, because I'm trying to cure my phone addiction right now. I think the most important thing in life is honesty and authenticity. Okay, so if today were my last day alive, I think the very first thing I'd do is I'd have a nice big bowl of Lucky Charms with oat milk. But if I had to name one favorite, it would probably be the movie Farewell My Concubine from 1993, directed by Chung Kai-go. My parents were strict when they needed to be and lenient when they needed to be. Of course, I think it's probably the hardest thing in the world to know when to do which, but I'm very grateful for the way that they raised me. If I could go back in time, the only thing I would do differently is practice the piano harder when I was a kid, because I find that it's such an asset to playing any other instrument. The side of me that the public never sees is, I would say, the volatile, sensitive, and vulnerable side. Obviously, when we come out on stage as performers, we have to kind of leave that all behind, but I think it's a significant part of our process. I try not to push myself harder than I feel like I want to be pushed. Whenever I feel like being done with a practice session, I just let myself be done. Even if I didn't accomplish everything that I had set out to accomplish at the beginning of that session. I think the most relaxing thing in the world is sitting outside on the porch and just letting the breeze go by. Unfortunately, I live in New York City, so I don't have a porch. So I think the most important day of my life, if I'm just thinking about the snowball effect, was probably the day that I first held a cello, because it's influenced pretty much every day since then. The first piece of music that I ever fell in love with was the first cello concerto by Dmitri Shostakovich. In the early days of YouTube, I heard the recording of Rostropovich and the Philadelphia Orchestra with Eugene Ormandy. I remember the combination of Rostropovich's playing, which is so arresting, and the intensity of the music made a huge impact on me. The recording of mine that I'm most proud of is probably the one on YouTube that I have of Esa-Pekka Salinen's solo cello piece, Uta 3. That piece is up there in probably the 2 or 3 pieces that I've worked on the most in my life. That performance, which was live, I was pretty proud of, because I felt like I executed everything that I had hoped to execute. I most enjoy working with my students. I just finished my first year of teaching at the Juilliard School, and it's made me realize how meaningful it is to me to have the experience to work on music and talk about the challenges that come with being a cellist and musician, with students, with other people who are curious and invested in improving and being better every day. I think the future of classical music is actually quite bright and full of possibility. And I think now, with all the concern over AI and how it's going to affect the activities that we find meaningful in our lives as human beings, classical music, it's so individual and so creative, comes from this pure essence of of the human spirit. I think it will be very, very difficult for it to ever be replaced.